Yo, what's up YouTube? Let's do this! It's the weekend, I got some more unboxings to do. Today we're gonna do some Urban Outfitters actually. I don't shop too much at Urban Outfitters, but I've been looking for some stuff and they had it, so I picked it up. I've been wearing a lot of, as you guys know, I like to wear a lot of Fear of God Balenciaga, but I've been wearing a lot of vintage these days, and the vintage has been dope because vintage just brings on this sense of nostalgia, brings on your childhood. I loved my childhood, so anything that reminds me of what it was like when I was younger, I'm a big fan of it. I used to wear a lot of this. This is true vintage, Guess vintage. And I noticed if you go into Guess, you'll find a lot of stuff that's kind of like throwback vintage. It's not actually vintage Guess, it's new stuff, but they base their design on the older stuff. And I think there's a really cool place in fashion for that, because when you're vintage shopping, you're not always going to be able to find that true genuine vintage, but you might be able to find a replica. And you know, just because it's a replica doesn't mean that it can't look cool. It definitely doesn't give it the same sense of collectability or like authenticity, but it does the job and it meets the fashion requirements, it meets the aesthetic. And so I think it's kind of cool to do both, you know? I think you can mix and match that fake vintage with real vintage, and you can make a really dope wardrobe out of that. So Urban Outfitters had some stuff I picked up that's kind of got that throwback vintage vibe to it. I'm going to go unbox that shit right now. So I want to talk to you guys about the difference between like real vintage and fake vintage. This Guess crew neck is actually from the 90s. It is super vintage. It's got some like stains and stuff on here, which I think is cool. It adds a little bit to the character of this sweater. But this Braves hat that I'm wearing is a 1995 World Series hat, and it is definitely not from 1995, but it's got that 1995 flavor to it, obviously, because it's got this World Series 1995 patch to it. So not authentic vintage, but you got that vintage flavor, and I think it works well. So you can kind of mix and match. I've got fake vintage on and real vintage on. This is a shirt that I picked up from Tyranny and Mutation. This is when Marilyn Manson was his merch for Sweet Dreams. This is a beautiful graphic on this shirt. It's so melty, like it feels like butter. I wish it fit me, but it's a little small on me. This is a great shirt for my wife, and I've been looking for something similar to this, but it's really hard to find, obviously, because it's an older shirt. You have to be able to find this specifically. It's like a needle in a haystack. So to kind of just satiate my desire to have Marilyn Manson Banshee that'll actually fit me the way I want it to, I bought this in a double extra large, which is a replica of their old merch, but this is brand new, freshly printed, feels like a new t-shirt. It doesn't totally satiate my desire to own some vintage Marilyn Manson, but you know, from an aesthetic like style standpoint, it gets the job done. So with that being said, I went on a fake vintage shopping spree at Urban Outfitters and Etsy. I picked up this Oakland A's. Look at this, how the hell? Bro, how the hell are you gonna ship me a hat like this? This is so fucked. What in the world? April, do you know where my phone is? This is so wrinkled. Like, how the hell am I supposed to wear this, Urban Outfitters? What in the world? And you might be thinking, Eddie, you're from Atlanta, you got a Braves hat on. What would you be doing with this? I really just love things that remind me of my childhood. And the Oakland A's back in the late 80s, early 90s, Jose Canseco and Mark McGwire were baseball gods. Check this out. Mark McGwire's rookie card, Jose Canseco's card. Absolutely obsessed with these guys. Now obviously, later we learned these guys were juiced up, and I don't have anything to say about that. But when I was growing up watching them play, it was amazing. I picked these up. They're like corduroy joggers. I figured right now April's pregnant, so she and I are the same waist size. So we can share this. This is my wife's favorite color. Not blue, not green. It's like a mint sage type of color. It's got some vintage. Would you say this is kind of vintage vibes? For me, like, it's easier to find vintage tops, like these kind of crew necks, hoodies, t-shirts. But vintage pants are very difficult because they just fit weird. I don't know what it is about pants. You guys let me know in the comments. Why is it harder to find vintage pants than it is tops? I picked these up, so we'll see if these are comfortable or not. April and I can share these too. It's a cool brand. It's called Ayet's France, Jets France. I'm not sure. It's got a faded wash to it, so it looks vintage even though it's not vintage. That's the whole vibe that I was going for while I was shopping at Urban. This is my gift to you, April. I think. Hold on. Chucks? No, sorry. These are my bad. Chucks. Definitely a vintage shoe. You know, they came from the 70s. I've got these Fear of God ones that I really like that they're black, but I wanted some like just straight up Chucks. So I got these. I could have sworn that I bought the white one, so I'm not sure. I think they sent me the wrong one. I usually wear a 10, but Chucks are like, some people say it's a half size big. I say go full size, and these fit me perfectly.
I love it! Those are beautiful.
And my wife likes runners like me.
I've been really into dusty blue. How'd you know?
They look super vintage, but they're not vintage.
And I love like running shoes. Like,
yeah, runners are the best. They're the most comfortable.
they look the best on me because they're more pointy. They're not so bulky and they're comfy.
When you wear streetwear too, I think it just kind of...
I love these. This is a great colorway.
It's a great colorway, right?
Yeah, thank you.
April and I've been sharing a lot of clothes, so I figured we share this. And I wasn't sure what this is. I think this is vintage. I think it is vintage, and it's a one of one. But I like the wash. It's kind of a tie-dye.
Yeah.
Sun-kissed black. I really like it. They've sun-kissed it to have it to have this tie-dye effect. Put it together with the joggers I just bought, the vintage wash joggers, and it's a great fit. And I look really vintage even though it's not technically vintage. Yo, Urban Outfitters sucks, man. You cannot send hats like this. This is crazy to me. Alright, I might be able to fix this. I am not happy with all the creases though, but once I fold it, I think, not bad. This is not from Urban Outfitters, this is from Etsy, but I thought they did a really good job with the graphics. Whoever designed this graphic was able to capture the essence of that 80s, 90s vibe. So, not vintage, but you've got vintage vibes. And I don't know if anyone would even question whether this was an actual vintage shirt or vintage crew neck or not. Like, how would anyone know? And then I got this hat. I'm not sure if it's from the same people, but finding a cool Penn State hat is hard because usually it's always the same emblem. Love this hat. Oh yes, and last but not least, you know, who didn't grow up with that Tommy Hilfiger Nautica sailing windbreaker? When I came across this like retro modern throwback Nike one, I was like, oh, this is definitely the one to get. I got this off of eBay. Brand new, but it's got those vibes, you know? If you're looking for that vintage look, but you don't want to pay the full price, looking for places like Garmentry on Etsy like this or Urban Outfitters, you can get that vintage look without breaking the bank. But I will say this, as someone who collects clothing and fashion and vintage, it doesn't give me the same satisfaction. I'm definitely looking for stuff that's actually from that era, because then I feel like my closet's got more of a museum flavor to it. But when you're just looking for style, something cheap, definitely Urban Outfitters, Etsy, great place to look for vintage looking clothing without breaking the bank. Alright guys, now you know like how I shop, what I'm looking for when I'm going vintage, and now you know how to save a couple bucks when you're looking for that vintage style. If there's anything else that you guys want to know about my life or fashion or probably law, since I'm an attorney, drop a comment, drop a like. The subscribers are shooting through the roof. It's incredible. I never in imagined years. I'm fucking ridiculously stupid, and I almost said a word that could have got me canceled. Shouldn't say that word. I'm bewildered, honestly. I have no idea how we even got to 1,000 subscribers, let alone 5,000. I'm incredibly grateful to all of you guys who watch and support the channel. So whatever you guys want to see, just let me know. I've already gotten a couple of DMs for stuff that you guys want. I'm working on that. Till next time, peace.